Hello, everybody. Yes, Jose. Thank you, Chris, for having me here. It's a great festival. We're learning a lot. We're growing personally, spiritually, musically. So please, next year, all the violin players outside, we need you to be here. Okay? Thank you.
They're done. They're done. So we're going to set this up here and have our basically our podcast discussion. Actually, I like where you're sitting right there. This
Oh,
is
nice.
perfect. Yeah. And could you do me a huge favor?
Yeah.
And just make sure that it looks like it's showing us. I think actually that would be perfect, just like that. And we can.
Now we can't see Jose anymore. Should we put it on a chair a bit further?
I
in
mean,
front?
if you're inspired, that would be amazing. Yeah, here I can give you a chair.
Make sure you're in the picture.
And as long as it's close enough that we have audio.
Yeah.
Are you okay if we kick it off? Okay. Okay if I just kind of rally people?
Good morning.
And feel free to.
Good. You get to sleep a little?
A little. What about you?
Yeah, we're there. It worked out.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here for the 11 o'clock little break with Jose Francisco. I don't know if you're familiar with the Creative Strings podcast, but I've had interviews on there with like Jean-Luc Ponty has done the interview, and Regina Carter and Karen Briggs and many wonderful creative string players. Stories about human beings and about the music and creativity and our motivations and all these things. And I wanted to take the opportunity for people to be able to ask questions of Jose Francisco, who's from the Dominican Republic and who we got to witness perform in a beautiful concert last night. Here, while we're in Lausanne, Switzerland at the Creative Strings Festival. So maybe I can start by asking you a couple questions, getting like a very brief intro based on what I know about Jose. I think one of the most fascinating things about Jose is the fact that he started playing the violin when he was 17 years old, and he's now only 26 years old. So this in and of itself is quite amazing. And and also I know that you come from the Dominican Republic, and that the circumstances there were not a lot of resources or opportunities for you to easily access violin lessons or even an instrument, or let alone like programs or facilities like this and institutions that provide all this support. So I think we're interested in knowing about that, but also just to know like the things that motivate you to must have practiced so hard, to be able to develop such a virtuosity. So I don't know if you'd like to share anything about that.
Definitely. First of all, I want to say thank you for being here, and I think what you guys are doing is great. Thank you, Chris and Bayou, for opening the doors and for really like trying to give what you guys already have, because sometimes there are not so many people that really like say, okay, I'm gonna teach, I'm gonna help others, and I really value that because I know. Based on my own experience, how difficult that is to find people that really like have a heart to give, like a giving heart. So how Chris was saying, I come from Dominican Republic, and the circumstances there are not like here. Like there are people lacking a lot there. So what I want to say with that is, or start this little talk, that we have to value what we have. Like you guys are very privileged, that you can start playing like when you are like 5 years old, 3 years old. Of course, I started at 17 years old because that was what I had in life. I mean, I didn't ask for that. Should I start like saying how everything started, or are there
You
specific
can say
questions?
as much as you want, or we can open it for people just to ask you anything they want.
I'm gonna start with a little introduction
Please.
first, from where I come from, how I started, like why I started playing the violin. I grew up in San Cristobal. That's the name of my town in DR. I have 3 brothers. Grew up with my mom, my dad, and my grandpa, my grandma as well. I was a baseball player. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. I was playing baseball, right? I started baseball when I was 11 years old, like 10, 11 years old. Unfortunately, I was almost like getting like a minor leagues contract and then to go play in major leagues. So I was very good at it. But unfortunately, I broke my arm. I have like a you see the scar? I have like a scar here. So this is why I stopped playing the violin. Like it was very, very bad. Sorry, not playing baseball. So this is sorry. So it was very bad, like a big fracture. And then I was like very disoriented in life, and I said, okay, what is it that I'm gonna do now? You know, I don't have baseball now, which was my first like passion in life. Then I used to watch a cartoon, SpongeBob. I don't know if you guys know it. Yeah? You know, Mr. Crab. He plays like a little tiny violin to make fun of like the workers at the restaurant. I was sharing to some of the guys last night, and I wanted to play the violin because I wanted to play that song. Everything I wanted was to play that song on the violin. I didn't want anything else, like play like bebop or whatever. I didn't know what that was. Play just the song that Mr. Grab used to play for to make fun of the workers. That's exactly how I started. In this story, there are like 5 people involved. I used to play at church. I'm trying to make it fast, like try to resume it a little bit because it's a long story. I used to go to a church, and I used to play the guiras and congas at the church. There is this guy, he says, we need a piano player. So I started like taking like some piano lessons, like just to play like songs at church and stuff. This piano teacher that I had, he had a violin at his house. That was my first time seeing a violin. I was like 16 years old when I saw a violin for the first time. I got very emotional because that was like something that I really wanted to do in life. Like, wow, a violin, I've never seen a violin before. Then I tell the guy, like, can you give the violin to me? Like, will you please give me the violin? He said, no, how come I'm gonna give you my violin? That's crazy. Okay, there is this lady at my neighborhood. She wanted to start a project. So I introduced Papito, is the piano player that had the violin in his house. I introduced Papito to the lady. So they met, they started to make meetings, how they're gonna develop the project. Then Papito introduced Hipólito to the lady. Hipólito is a violin player, which was my first violin teacher. They started making meetings, but the project never happened. There were like interest problems and stuff. Then I took Hipólito's phone number, the violin player, so I started calling him and telling him, hey, I'm the guy from, I was 16 years old at that time. I'm the guy from San Cristobal, I wanna learn how to play the violin. And I insisted so much, he didn't want to because he always was busy. Like I called him, and he says, call me later, I'm at a rehearsal. Then I called him, he didn't pick it up. He says, I'm gonna call you. He never called. Like, and I was in that thing like weeks, a month. Then I went to his workplace. And at that time, that was harassment. I was harassing him to teach me how to play the violin. And I was like 16 years, like and a half, something like that, right? And now I went to his workplace. He tells me, like, man, what are you doing here? Like, what do you want from me? He says, no, I cannot teach you now. You have to understand that you have to wait till the project in San Cristobal starts. The project didn't start till this date now. So what happened if I didn't like keep insisting? Then I went very sad home. I was very sad, like I cried because I said, I'm not gonna see my dreams coming through playing the violin. I really get emotional when I talk about these things because it's like, I think about it and it's like, man, look everything I had to went through just to like play 3 notes on the violin. Well, I kept calling him. He was like always like, like, man, please stop, it's a lot already. Till one day he like got fed up and said, okay, what is it that you want? We had a meeting. I told him what I wanted, like to play the violin. So he gave me a violin and he said, like, I'm gonna teach you how to play the violin. That was the happiest moment of my life when he said that. Beautiful. He gave me a violin and he told me, I'm gonna teach you every Saturday. Like he was the director of one of the most important universities in DR, in the jazz Abteilung, how you say Abteilung?
Department.
And the Department of Jazz in the Dominican Republic. So I had to go every Saturday there. Now comes the thing, how am I gonna go from San Cristobal to Santo Domingo? It's like hour and a half difference, like traject. And my family didn't have the money to pay for the transportation. So my dad had a guitar. I don't know how you guys call that you bring the guitar to a place and they like...
Pawn shop.
Exactly, and they give you money and you leave the guitar there. When you get the money back, they're gonna give you back the guitar. Is that how you call that?
Yeah.
So my dad used to do that every week, to give me the money to go, Stefan, to go take the lessons to Santo Domingo, which was like an hour and a half distance. And my dad used to do that every week, every single week. He used to go Thursday, bring the guitar to the place, get the money for the transportation. Then in the week, try to find the money, get the guitar back, and then like every week he used to do that. Every week. So what happens? I go to the place every Saturday. Very shy. I was 17 years old when, like, in that, thing of calling Hipólito to like get him to give me the violin to teach me. Like almost a year in that little thing, Okay, I go every Saturday there, like sometimes it was hard because, like I felt like, that they pay attention to like a group of people and I was a little bit like left out, whatever. Okay, fine, great, I don't care. I just try to go put like positive energy, like be thankful that now I have a violin and now I can be close to people with violins, So that's basically how it started. Of course, I had to put a lot of energy into it, a lot of like practice, and also being thankful above all. That's something that we don't usually have, like being thankful for the things we have. So I started playing, practicing. When I was 7 months playing the violin, I played as a soloist for the first time, and I played Children's List. Exactly. That was great, amazing. Of course, a lot of mistakes and stuff, but in 7 months, I was already seeing the results, Of course, for me, that was like something big because, 7 months playing the violin and I'm already like making it sound. Of course, in my neighborhood, everybody was hating me because I was playing, and the houses are very close to each other. So the people who used to go to my house, Chris, to complain to my parents, like, this guy is gonna drive us crazy with this. But I didn't care. I mean, like I just kept doing it because that was exactly my, passion. And like when you have a passion, you don't care about like circumstances and stuff. You just go for it. Yeah. Then as I said, I kept practicing and practicing and practicing. And I started seeing a change in my life and the people around me that they say, wow, this guy was 17 years old and he just started playing the violin, look what he's doing. Of course, on the way, in this, on the way, I was very confused about, like, hey, now I'm playing the violin, I'm playing notes and stuff, like what is it that I want to play, like what type of music, where am I gonna get with that, what is it that I want to play, a classical player, a jazz player, what is it that I want to play? And this is a question that we most of the time have, like what is it that we want to play, or am I a jazz player, like what is it a jazz player, what is a jazz violinist, like, and it's a question that we have to really ask ourselves because sometimes we are very disoriented and we don't get to where we want to get because we don't have that clear. Like, what is it that I want to play on my instrument? So I was on that, like bubble, like, okay, do I want to be a jazz player? What is a jazz player? Brother, I grew up in an island in the Caribbean. Like, there is nothing with jazz there. Like, jazz, it's not part of my culture. It's not part of who I am. It's not what I am or where my circumstances, am I gonna be a classical player? Okay, I'm also from an island in the Caribbean. Like classical music is not like, we like salsa, bachata, piña colada on the beach and stuff like that. There's nothing to do with mala or something, like it's, please, come on. Piña colada and mala doesn't have nothing to do, like, Sorry. So that was like the questions, you know, like, so on that process, I had to learn how to really enjoy myself and really like just play the violin. You don't have to think about like, okay, I'm a jazz violin player or I'm a classical violin player. Of course, we escaped classical music because we didn't feel free, right? Now we have the freedom, right, of being who we are. But sometimes we also be trapped in that trend of, okay, I'm a jazz violin player, right? Because sometimes I had the feeling, I don't know how is it for you guys, that sometimes when we say jazz violin, it's like a trend. Let's be the trend, I'm a jazz violin player. And we follow that trend and we neglect who we really are, okay? We really neglect who we really are because we sound exactly like Stefan Grappelli. We sound exactly like Didier, no? We sound exactly like all these violin, okay, but amazing, that's amazing. It's great to transcribe. It's great to do all these things, but what is your sound? What is your personality? You know? And this is something that we really have to think about. What is your personality? Who are you? Because I think there is beauty in it. When all of us get together and we bring something, you know? But if we all bring the same Didier Lapo sound or Grappelli sound, what is it? You know, like there is not beauty in it. It's just like you know, like we're just like overdubbing something, you know, like in audio recording, when you record a track, you just like duplicated it. There is nothing happening. There is just volume going up, you know? So this is exactly how I see things. We have to like discover who we really are. Are we a jazz violin player? Like what connects you to jazz? That's the question. Like what makes you a jazz violin player? Are you a classical player? Beautiful. Of course, here in Europe, there is a big culture of that, but in Latin America, Dominican Republic, a little island, like we don't have nothing of classical music. We have merengue, bachata, and salsa. This is what I grew up, you know, playing the music. So I spent so much time trying to be a classical player. I didn't find my voice being a classical player because it's not where I grew up. Were not my circumstances. I spent so much time trying to be a jazz violin player. That was not my culture. That's not where I grew up, you know? So that's exactly the problem. Like I spent so much time like finding, you know, ways and it didn't work out for me. Till I said, okay, I'm gonna just embrace who I am. I'm gonna embrace that I started at 17 years old, that I didn't have the resources to do that. I have to put more energy on it than somebody that started with 4. And just like, you know, because we spend so much time, energy, being somebody that we're not. And that's exactly the problem. We need to try to find ourselves. Do you want to play, I don't know, break the laws? You don't have to be Didier Lockwood or Stefan Grappelli. Like, what connects you to them? Oh, as I said, those are like people that we love and respect because they made like such a great contribution to the jazz violin. And we really value that, you know, but we also need to find our own voice. Like, who are we, you know? So if we don't discover that, we're gonna be always in this circle, okay? We're gonna be always like walking in the same direction, like always like this. Because we're gonna be like comparing ourselves to Chris. Oh, I wanna play like Chris. I wanna be Chris. Like I wanna have the same hairstyle. I wanna have the same beautiful shirt, the same shoes, the same pants. I wanna eat the same thing. He's doing like now hot yoga. This is insane, you know? It's like crazy. I also want to do hot yoga in the morning, you know, 1 hour. I want to drink a lot of coffee, not a lot of coffee, but spend 5 hours with a little cup of coffee. No, I'm kidding. You know? And we forget about ourselves. Like, I like brownies. I don't want to be vegan or I don't want to be vegetarian. I don't want to eat meat. I mean, those are like weird examples, sorry, but we forget who we are, you know. That's what I want to say. Like what is it that you like? Who are you? So don't compare yourselves to Stefan Grappelli or Didier or you know, or your partners here, because then you're not gonna grow. You're gonna be frustrated all the time. Like shit. I'm sorry. I cannot play like him. But probably you have something beautiful as well that you haven't discovered because you've been like thinking about the other person. you know? And that's exactly why we shouldn't like that path. When we walk that path, I think we're gonna have a lot of problems in life. And it doesn't only apply for music, and also how we look with ourselves. Loving yourself is important, you know? Like before being a violin player, we are human beings, you know? And if somebody has a car, beautiful, I just have a bike. I have to enjoy having a bike, you know? I don't have to want to have a car as well or have a, you know, like, as I said, those are like weird examples, so you try to understand what I'm trying to say. It's just like discover who you are, look at the mirror and say, man, I love you, you know? Stuff like that, because we focus so much on the other. I want to sound like the other. I want to be the other. And we forget about ourselves, you know? And I think that's a huge mistake. And if you are like that in life, imagine when you play the violin, because you're going to be comparing yourself to everybody, you know? Yeah, this is it, I think. Thank you.
Beautiful. I just want to ask one quick question, then I want to open it up for people to ask any other questions, and then we'll move on to class shortly.
Beautiful.
If it's okay. But I'm so inspired already just by hearing you talk about this. One thing that you shared with us last night, I think, was that you had this also. You would go to the conservatory classes, but then you would also have church, which was like a parallel, completely different musical experience.
Yeah.
Can you share like a little bit about
Yeah.
what it was like playing music in church on Sundays?
Beautiful. Let me tell you. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how churches in the Dominican Republic work and how churches in the United States work or in Europe, okay? We have Pentecostal churches in the DR, right? This is what is abundant, like a lot of Pentecostal churches. When we talk about Pentecostal in the DR or evangelical, those are like these random churches, you know, that are like, you know, they have a lot of music movement. There is a lot of music going on. Completely different than the United States. How does it work in the DR? Music is very unorganized in a church. What does that mean? We don't have a plan. Like, okay, this day we have rehearsal. This day, you know, like this guy, like Stefan and Chris are gonna sing. Okay. How that works there is like somebody, like the leader or no, like the people like doing the service. They start like picking up like random people from the crowd, like, you know, like what is your name? Sarah, Sister Sarah, please come here. You're gonna sing a song. But Sister Sarah doesn't know anything about music. So we're playing a major song in a major key, right? And let's see, like C major, right? We're playing in C major. Everybody's like, hallelujah, right? Like, cool, you know. But suddenly comes Sister Sarah and changed the song in the middle of the thing to a minor key. Like, you, man, come on, but like, you know, like, please, what is that? You know? So it was like, you know, like a catastrophe. So I started the violin as well, you know, like very disciplined with the violin. And I'm also like, have that input, like very like, you know, like disorder, you know, completely disorder. So how can I put these two things together? Of course, with the church, I learned a lot about like ear training, you know, because we're the people that, you know, like somebody that is 80 years old that doesn't know anything about music, it's just like, I mean, it's just like, you know, great, okay, we enjoy, we glorify God, it's great. So I had to think about, okay, what can I take positive about it? Like, what positive things can I take about it, you know? So that was kind of like hard for me, to be honest, you know, because I was kind of a little bit distracted and trying to be focused. I don't know if you guys understand what I'm trying to say. It's just that it was a little bit too messy, you know? So playing the violin with that thing was not like a lot helpful, but I mean, I got the ear training, like being, okay, this is how it is. You have to like, just go for it. Yeah, that was basically it. But like in the United States, probably it's very organized. Like, okay, we have a plan, okay? We're not gonna call random people. We're not gonna call Sarah because we know. But that's the first person they call, you know? But of course, yeah.
Well, to me, that what comes up for me around this idea is that music, it can be messy,
Definitely.
you know, and it can be very human. You know, like even we have like Lice, who is here, She is busking all around Europe all the time, and she's in these like messy situations every day, I guess, you know, and maybe she even thrives in these messy situations. And so I hear this as a reminder that it's like it's okay to be messy, and actually that it's part of being human and the mess that we all create together.
Yeah.
You know, and to not be afraid of those messes. I don't know, that's just what comes up for me. Would anybody like to ask or make any comments or ask Jose any questions?
Please.
I would be curious about if you have any like musical heroes, so to speak, because you were speaking about, which I found very beautiful, about finding your own voice and not following, you know, some external examples, but I was thinking about the power of admiring people and as a source of motivation.
Yeah.
So did you have like, you know, at a certain point in your life, you know, like these heroes where it would be like, I mean, Grappelli, of course, as a violin player maybe, but maybe other.
That's an amazing question. I really like the question because I was telling you that I was in a very like different process in my life where I didn't find my voice. I was like looking for something, you know. I was in the classical thing, the jazz thing, you know, like, and I had heroes in all of those stages, you know. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. In the classical thing, Perman, Isaac Perman was my god, you know. And there was a point that I was exactly like the same vibrato, the same bowing, you know, he like, you know, like the same thing, like was exactly like him. Like even I went to a like a, how you call that, like a master class, and I played something, and he was like, you play like exactly like Perman. I didn't like that, you know, because like I was starting to realize, okay, but I'm not Perman. I don't want to be Perman, you know. When I was experimenting with jazz, of course, I really loved Didier, you know, like that was my, you know, my god as well in the jazz thing. Didier was exactly transcribing everything from Didier, like trying to sound exactly like him, but I didn't find peace on that as well, you know. But that's responding to your question. Yes, I had like several. Like I would say Didier was my inspiration in the jazz part, and Isaac Perman in the classical one. Yes.
I would like to know if you had some other people, heroes or not heroes, from your music. I mean, you played a tune from Chucho Valdez.
Yes.
Somebody, I mean, people who don't play the violin, but who inspired you, maybe?
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna start from the R. In the R, there are like, we have, you know, bachata music. I don't know if you know about bachata. It's like the typical style of the Dominican Republic. This is what we have there. I love a lot of performers from of course, those songs doesn't have any violin, you know, but I love the singing of it and also the percussion, and especially the songs from the 70s or the 60s, because they have something special, and it's like how out of tune they are, you know, and it's like how the bass is out of tune, the percussions are out of tempo, you know, the singing is just like, but it's beautiful, you know, it's like there is beauty in it, you know, and I really love that because it's so genuine, you know, it's just so genuine, and every singer, it's like they find their own way of doing things without like comparing themselves to other people, you know. That's in the Dominican Republic. Of course, we have a lot of like Cuban musicians as well, like Arturo Sandoval, a great piano player, Michael Camilo. So those are the people that I really follow, like their trajectory. Yeah.
How was your way to Europe?
Oh yes, that's a great question. My way to Europe, and why Germany?
Why Hamburg?
Why Hamburg? Okay, of course, in the whole process of like playing the violin and stuff, great. I got to a level where I was playing at a symphony orchestra in the Dominican Republic. So we got invited to a festival in Europe, especially Hamburg. We played in the concert house in Berlin. As well, we had like this also festival going on. So we came to Hamburg, and I love the city here, and I would love to like really like do my studies here. So that's how I connected myself to the city, because we came on a trip. Then I went back to the.
When was it?
That was in 2019.
Okay.
And we went back to the R, and then I applied for the master's degree, and I got the place at the university. Yes, that's how I made it to Europe. Germany, of course. I never wanted to learn the language. This is a funny story about it. Last night I was talking about it. Please don't tell anyone, okay? This is very confidential information. Oh, it's been live streamed.
Yeah, it's a live stream.
You too, okay? Okay, this is a very secret thing, okay? What happened, Stefan? There is this thing going on in Germany. Well, in Europe, of course, it's a very sad situation, this war thing between Russia and Ukraine. The German government opened the doors for everybody, in the sense of okay, we're gonna make integration courses and stuff, so people can learn about the culture, about the language, so people can learn the language. So there was a school, a German school. They opened a course for people from the Ukraine and Russia. I was telling some of the guys last night, you know what I did? I went there and I said, I come from the Ukraine. Of course, the guy didn't believe me, because I don't know Ukraine. Please come on, man. But he was very nice. He said, okay, look what we're gonna do. You're gonna buy the box, and you're gonna come next week. This is how I started learning the language. Because of course, those German courses are very expensive. So you have to try to find a way, because it was 5 hours a week, and it was a free course. And I said, man, this is the break, you just have to sneak in, So that's how I did it, Still working on it. Yeah. Any more questions?
Yeah.
Please.
How was your family? Was your family supportive when you?
They didn't want me to play the violin. They were completely, because they saw me as a baseball player. Because in baseball there is a lot of calling.
Yeah.
There is a lot of money in baseball involved, So playing the baseball is we have a big baseball movement in the DR, a lot of baseball players from the major leagues in the United States are Dominicans from the Dominican Republic, because we grew up with that thing of playing baseball, okay? So every kid play baseball, or is playing baseball, because it's part of us. So I'm telling my family I'm gonna stop playing the baseball, and I'm gonna play the violin was very frustrating, because okay, this guy's gonna now have this adventure of playing this instrument that we don't know about, we know a guira, we know a conga, but we don't know what a violin is, So that was a little bit they were okay, man, are you sure about it? Because you're gonna of course I broke my arm, and it's this is why I stopped playing baseball. But they said man, are you sure you wanna walk down that path,
Yeah.
So they were a little bit no, we're not gonna support that, till they saw that I was growing so much, that I was playing and stuff, and I was being invited to places. And when my first international trip came, this is where everybody, all the neighbors that really used to complain, were the first one and my first trip was to Costa Rica, where what is your name again? Mauricio is from. So this is why we had a great talk last night, because that was my first trip. This is where my family especially started supporting that, and they say okay, he's talented, I don't know if I responded to your question.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
And then your hand didn't.
Yeah, I still have some problems. My left hand is very weak, and sometimes it hurts when it's cold. I don't know if it's something with my bones or whatever, because I have a big scar here, and it's cannot even bend my arm properly, because it really hurts still.
But you're okay, obviously.
Well, I sometimes with difficulties, but we have to do it, Yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody else? Please feel free. Please.
How was it for you to start your own projects in Germany?
It was good, to be honest, because I had great people that really supported me since day zero, Of course, when you go to a new place, it's hard, because you need to start making friends. Do all the paperwork with residency, with registry and stuff. So that takes some time, you have to be very patient. But when I started at the master's program there, people really started supporting that because they saw that I have potential, and and they really wanted to be part of that, including Chris. Chris was part of my master's program there, because I had to like make the artist in residency pro. I don't know if you have to do that as well. No. But this is a new thing that you have to invite like an artist that you want to work with, and that this person is like has some input in your music career. So I called Chris, and he was so nice to be part of that. He came to Germany. We did the project. We recorded like almost like 35 pieces together. And he was like so positive about it. So I'm so thankful that I had like people like that, like I had like great teachers and also great mentors and great people that really wanted to be part of that project, So it was not that hard. Like the hard part was in the DR, But when I came to Germany with with a clear vision of what I am or what I want to go, I had those people that really, like supported that vision. Yeah.
Can I share something about that too? So when he reached out to me about 2 years ago about coming to Hamburg, and I heard you playing and stuff, and we talked, and I got the impression that you didn't really know like a lot about the jazz language or like tunes or like how to play changes. This was 2 years ago. We all heard him play, and you played every change last night. He played every chord last night.
Thank you.
All the 2-5-1s. I heard all those changes. But 2 years ago, he wasn't playing those changes.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things I said, well, you're going to have to play the changes. But when I came to Hamburg, I was like, well, what are we going to do? And I was like, well, I don't think we need to play tunes. And so we did 35.
Yeah.
I said, let's record like a whole album.
Yeah.
And so in 2 days, we recorded 35 free improvisations. And I wanted to let people here know that, because to tell you that like it's like you can do that, right? Like the things we're doing with free improvisation in the class, it was just duo.
Yeah.
And I said, let's set up the phone.
Yeah.
And okay, so let's just play quarter notes.
Yeah.
Right? Do you remember what were the other structures that we used?
We had different ones. We had like different like structure with different tempos, or sometimes we play like 5 notes. You 5 notes, me. We hold the tone. You play. I hold the tone. I play. So there were like very cool dynamics, that you think, okay, this is a written piece, like you have the feeling, okay, somebody wrote this. Because, okay, we're talking about free improv, but that's the question, what is it that the music needs, Free improv is not like you're gonna just, put everything that comes to your mind. It's just like, think about what is it that the music needs. So we worked on that project and it was beautiful, yeah.
And then you said, okay, tell me everything. And so I sat down for 2 hours and we recorded.
Yeah.
And I said, so this and this and this and this and this. And then, but I said, but I want you to learn to practice the changes.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was 18 months ago, because I came to Hamburg at the same time when we had the festival here. And then I saw you played all the changes last night. So I wanted to tell you I heard that. So that's great. So that means you have 18 months, you can learn all the changes. You can just listen. Was there maybe one more question?
How many hours a day do you practice the changes?
Yeah, that's a good question. Not too much, to be honest. Sorry. Not too much, but I just try to be smart about it, like in the sense of I'm just gonna take 2 courses, okay? No more than that. Just keep it simple, because that's exactly the thing. We wanna like sound like somebody else, like just like have the feeling of what you like doing, Of course, there isn't structure about it, but to answer your question, I would say very irregular, very irregular. It's just like meditate about it, like how I'm gonna approach that, and how I wanna sound like, And that's what I said, like when you discover what you want, you don't have to practice 10 hours a day, because you're very clear of what you want. But when you're not clear about how you wanna sound like, or you're gonna spend like the whole life and you're not gonna get it, That's my thoughts about it. Like, if you know where you're going, you don't need to practice that much, because you know what you want and you focus on discover yourself. But if you wanna spend time like trying to sound like Chris or Stefan or Baju, you're gonna spend your whole life doing that, because they spend time discovering who they are. They don't sound like somebody else. They sound like Baju, they sound like Stefan, they sound like Chris. And that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, it's like Sarah, what you want to sound. You want to sound like Sarah or you want to sound like somebody else, you know? Like, it's just focusing about like who we are, and those changes are gonna come tranquilo, you know, like without any you know. That's what I personally think.
But 18 months ago, if I remember correctly, you said, I really want to be a jazz musician.
Because I was very disoriented. I want to be a jazz musician, you know, and that's exactly the thing, you know. Why would I want to be a jazz musician if I don't have anything that connects me to jazz? It's hard. This is like very like, you know, like a diminished chord. Like, oh no, why you say that? This is you know, this is unholy to say. Like, I don't want to be a jazz player, but it's the truth. Like why would I want to be a jazz player if I don't have anything that connects me to jazz, you know? And that's the reality that I have to be, you know, honest about, I guess, you know. Then I changed my opinion. I spent some time trying to discover myself. Nothing that has to do with the violin, just like personally, like spiritually, like who am I? Do I have to dress like him or you know? And then I started applying that to the violin. Do I want to sound like him? Do I have to sound like him? Do I have to be a jazz violin player where I didn't grow up being around violin players or a culture of violin players? So that's what really made me change, you know.
Beautiful. I think I hopefully speak for other people in the room saying thank you so much. You're a huge inspiration.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And now, boss, off to class or what?
Yeah, off to class. So lunch is still at 1. So we go like 45 minutes for a little class in room 3 with Chris or with Stefan. I don't remember. I think with you.
There's 2 classes, right?
I'm gonna give a class about harmony and how to practice.
Yeah, I'll be back there.
And then Stefan is gonna give a class about.
Let me see.
No, I think you're off. He's off now. I think it's you're doing advanced in here, right?
Yeah, it's gonna.
It's in the email. Whatever it said in the
It's gonna
email.
get advanced pretty quickly.
Yeah. So I'll be more gentle class back there. That was great, man. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
It's all in the email. Hey, what's up? What's up, man? Good to see you.
I'm looking forward to this so much.
Talvez.
Só não é fácil, tipo, só vai...
Não dá pra fazer maracangalha.
Boa.